This next topic, sunscreen, because this is something my friends and I are consistently trying to figure out. What is the best product? How often should we use it? All the sunscreen things. So Mana is here to tell us what's next in sunscreens. Dena, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Julia. I'm very proud to be part of today's Founder Made Beauty and Wellness Summit here, and I'm really looking forward as well to our discussion about sun care and multi-protective beauty. Here today, we're going to cover the trends and market forces driving innovation. We'll cover safety matters and regulatory dynamics, and we're going to talk about the latest formulation techniques and ingredient technologies too. So everyone here with me on the virtual Founder Made stage is an expert in their own right. And I will let each of our panelists go ahead and introduce themselves briefly. First, let's meet Chris Kiru, Senior Vice President of Research and Development. Chris, go ahead and give yourself a little intro.
Thanks, Dena. Nice to see you. I'm Chris Kiru, Senior Vice President of R&D at Mana. I'm responsible for the R&D function, which encompasses the development labs, the regulatory function, and some of the technical functions that bridge the labs and manufacturing. Great to be here today.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Let's next meet Najla Lafont, Senior Director of Global Regulatory Affairs. Najla, go ahead.
I am Najla. I'm honored to be here today. I'm in charge of all regulatory and safety concerns at Mana. So sunscreens are pretty much my forte. Nice to be here.
Perfect, thank you. And finally, let's go ahead and meet Pradeep Yadav, Vice President of R&D. Pradeep.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. It's a pleasure and honor to share our experience and gain from yours. Yeah, I'm here at Mana. I lead the contact labs for skincare and color both. Nice to be here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. As you heard in the intro to our panel, I am Dena Yutreski, a beauty industry thought leader and business content specialist. To go ahead and introduce our topic for this panel, which really is multi-protective skincare, a bit more fully, I want to say this. Skincare continues to be a priority for beauty and personal care consumers today. And as a result, we're hearing more and more about the need for everyday skincare. As Julia just mentioned, we're hearing about recommendations to wear it under clothing, indoors, and literally every day. Blue light blocking products are increasingly popular too. And we are seeing a spectrum of multifunctional formulas that promise to protect skin from various pollutants and irritants, including salts, smoke, smog, and even particles that are being described as microdust. So since each of the panelists with me here today can share insights and ideas on different aspects of this compelling product category, I'm going to go ahead and chat with you essentially one at a time. And then at the very end of our half hour, we will take questions from the audience. Now, this doesn't mean you have to wait until the end to type your questions in. In fact, I encourage you to go ahead and type your questions into the Q&A, or rather the chat function on the side of your screen, as soon as you think of them. This way, if maybe we're not able to answer your questions during our time today, the speakers will be able to share their answers with you individually in the days ahead. That said, let's go ahead and get started. Chris, I'll ask you a few questions first. I'm wondering, in your role as Senior Vice President of R&D in contract manufacturing, you have a good perspective, right, of how categories like sun care and skincare are converging and evolving. I'm hoping, Chris, you can give us an overview of this category we're calling multi-protective beauty.
Sure, Deanna. And, first of all, thanks for partnering with us to moderate this important topic, because sun protection in and of itself is not a new concept, right? It's been around since ancient times. The ancient Egyptians used to take these protective salves and put them on their skin with botanical extracts and clays and minerals in them. But the reality is today you're just seeing so much innovation happening in this category, and it's such a worthy topic to talk about it. So we're happy to be sharing our insights here with our participants. But to your question, I'll kind of set the stage with a few key factors that we're really seeing as being driving forces that are influencing the new product introductions in the sun protection category. Great. And are really influencing how these formulas come together. Namely, I'll talk a little bit about consumer behavior, a little bit about ingredient technologies, and just touch the surface on some of the regulatory landscape that's really shaping this. But in terms of consumer behavior, the good news is that when you just look at our market here in the US, consumers are using more sun products now than they were even 3 or 4 years ago. And that's good news, right? Because when you think about skin cancer, it's still the most common cancer worldwide. So it's such an important product usage category. You couple that with the fact that when you look at skin aging throughout somebody's lifetime, 80% of that skin aging is really driven by exposure to sun and these extrinsic factors. So I think consumers we're seeing are really more educated now. They understand that sun protection is not just when I go to the beach anymore. It's really important to protect the skin from the daily incidental exposure that people get to sun. You also mentioned it, Deanna, that we're seeing that consumers are also more educated in the fact that it's more than just sun that's damaging the skin, right? You look at some of these wavelengths beyond what we typically think of when we think about sun. We think of UVA and UVB protection, but what about high energy visible light that comes from natural light exposure? We're being exposed to these digital screens day in and day out. So consumers are more savvy on the importance of protecting against blue light. And you mentioned urban dust or microdust, some of these other elements in the environment that damage our skin on a daily basis. So that's really also shaping how these products are formulated.
Yeah.
And then, when you look at the emergence of self-care and health and wellness, just as such an important consumer trend today, consumers are not only wanting to protect their skin, but they really want to enjoy using the products at the end of the day, right? They want to feel great using them. So the experiential, tactile, sensory aspects of the products are so important. You have inclusive beauty today that's becoming more and more important. So designing formulations that work across a multitude of skin tones is important. And then last but not least, you think of more and more the Gen Z consumer and how they're influencing and shaping the beauty category. And I can speak to this firsthand because I have 2 daughters that fit in that category. And they care about what's in the products that they use, and they also care about the impact that those products make on the environment at the end of the day. So you kind of take all these kind of consumer behaviors and you really see that they're influencing these new product introductions. When you look at ingredient technologies, this is where we as formulators, we really have our work cut out for us, right? Because when you think about historically sun protection products, that's a difficult category to formulate in, where you can balance kind of product efficacy and performance with this really experiential aspect of really loving to use products on a daily basis. So fortunately, we have Pradeep and his team who, really drive kind of an expertise coupled with new ingredient introductions that you're seeing in the market today that are really enabling manufacturers such as ourselves and brands to really push the envelope on new product textures in the sun protection space that really surprise and delight consumers at the end of the day. And then, just lastly, just a couple things on the regulatory landscape. This is just an ever-evolving category, right? We've had a monograph that's regulated sunscreens in the US since 1978, but we still don't have a final monograph today, right? And you couple that with the fact that there's more and more press, being exposed to consumers every day, where, are the sun products that I'm putting on my skin healthy for me? Are they impacting my health? Are they impacting the aquatic environments? What impact are they having on the planet? So there's a lot of scientific debate that goes on with many of these topics, but consumer perception is really there based on what they're reading. So fortunately, we have Najla and her team who really stay on top of that and help us navigate that tricky space. But that's just a little bit of kind of the 3 key areas that we see really shaping this landscape.
Excellent, excellent. That's very helpful. Thank you, Chris. I do want to go ahead and move directly onto Najla so you can expand on some of the safety concerns and regulatory issues. I'd like to first ask you, Najla, can you talk about maybe some more recent regulatory changes that impact sun care and multi-protective beauty?
Well, Deanna, I think the biggest challenge right now with the regulatory landscape and just safety on a whole would be overturning negative public perception of sunscreens. And I think that's important because over the years, there have been a plethora of independent research on sunscreen safety, especially of the chemical filters, from damaging of the coral reefs to detection of benzene, toxic benzene in aftercare and a lot of sunscreen products, to just evidence of disease and other health concerns. And as Chris stated, the consumer of today is more knowledgeable due to all this readily available information. And they're also attuned with the chemicals that go onto their skin and also in their body. It's so funny. We have a joke that we always say within my department. Everyone is a desktop chemist these days. Everyone does a better job than you, thanks to the International University of Google and YouTube. You could become a brain surgeon on YouTube, let me tell you. No, but still, what that does is the general public demands more transparency, and that's a good thing. So the consumer pressures the brands for transparency, and it creates a domino effect. Then the brands also, they lean heavily on the manufacturer, and also the manufacturer, like ourselves, onto the raw material suppliers. And that forces the industry to create a higher quality product. But the most major concern is the confusion that all this readily available information creates. Listen, I'm pleased that everyone's knowledgeable on everything going on with sunscreens and contaminants and what goes into your body. But a lot of the research, current research, the findings are inconclusive. Example, in 2020, just the Journal of Dermatology found that it was inconclusive that oxybenzone and octinoxate, those chemical filters we're concerned with, actually causes health concerns. Also, Europe put out a publication stating that there's no real evidence that they are hormone disruptors. Even with the coral reefs, right? There have been a lot of publication, a lot of chatter about chemical filters damaging the coral reefs and bleaching the coral reefs and killing the aquatic life. There's no real conclusive research that it actually does that, because that research was challenged because the testing was done in a lab and not really in the everyday environment.
Let me jump in and ask you this, because you're making several very good points, Najla. I know that brand leaders are working hard right now, right, to ensure that their products stand out in the marketplace. And given what you've described, I'm wondering what sort of guidance you would give to brand leaders who really want to make product claims in this space. How do you talk to brand leaders about that?
Yeah, well, number one, do the testing, because in order for a product to be safe, you have to think about the efficacy. To make the claims, you have to conduct the testing. And there's various testing, not just SPF factor testing, but also UVA, UVB. You want a broad spectrum product, a product that not only protects you from UVB and the wrinkles and the sunburns, but across the board. Just conduct the necessary testing. Also go the other mile. Ensure that the ingredients that you're using are safe for the consumer, doesn't cause an irritation. Conduct your irritation testing or your RIPT. So go the extra mile, because although sunscreens are regulated by the FDA, it's also up to the brand and the manufacturer to ensure the safety of the product.
Excellent, excellent. That's very helpful. I'm going to move ahead in the interest of time, but I'll circle back to you, Najla. I want to ask Pradeep, excuse me, about some actual product formulation. I'm hoping, Pradeep, you can speak to what ingredient technologies maybe are most relevant in sun care and multi-protective beauty right now.
Yeah, Diana, this has evolved so much. I would say more so in the last 6 to 7 years, the technologies that are associated, and I'm going to use the word associated because SPF is not a very a technology on its own. It's a very broad, complicated system, right? When you formulate with SPF, it's not just one sunscreen. It's everything that contributes in that system, and everything for the consumer. Everything has gotten better over the last 5 to 6 years. Let me give you an example on that. So, for example, I remember way back when I started on the bench, you only had 1 grade of zinc and 1 grade of TiO2. To work it or not, it left your skin white, right? It left a white cast. Nowadays, you have so many different variations of these zinc and TiO2, different treated zinc and TiO2 and different particle size to work with, that it really creates a very unique experience for every ethnicity, every skin type, right? And that's a flexibility that the formulator really craves for. And as I was saying earlier, that it's not just the sunscreen, right? What this has done is over the years, the technology has evolved on the sunscreen boosters. We have more and better sunscreen boosters now so what you're doing is you're reducing the level of sunscreen that you need to get to the certain SPF by using sunscreen booster.
Yes.
So the overall impact on not only on the environment is much lower, but you're also getting a better consumer experience, right? Because typically the mineral sunscreens are very drying or chemical sunscreens are very oily. That's a truth when you work with formulation, right? So you can reduce both of those by using boosters and increase your SPF factor. In parallel, I would also like to add something about emulsifiers. And emulsifiers are something that bring the entire oil and water system together.
Right.
And nowadays, with the green revolution, a lot of people are moving towards green chemistry, right? And that has evolved a lot, tremendously. Back in the days, we used to depend on ethoxylated or PEGs, emulsifiers. Now you have green chemistry emulsifiers, and they can give you very unique textures.
Excellent, excellent. I want to jump in and ask a little bit about a trend program I understand that exists at Mana Products that helps your R&D team match ingredients and formulation technologies with really the ever-changing consumer expectation. You explained a bit there when you were talking about the various zincs that are now available. Can you talk a little bit more about what that trend program is and how it helps brands looking to formulate with you?
Yes, thanks a lot for asking that question. Mana has a very well-established trends program, and then we call it the Next Lab, and they are very outward focused, right? They not only look at all the other competitors, they also look at different technologies. They also come with different forms, and what that does is when they come to us with. I remember one time about a year ago, they came to us and say, hey, with a souffle, hey, can you create this in a sunscreen, like a sunscreen souffle, like an SPF souffle, right? Like the inspiration was coming from food industry, right? Or a SPF, I don't know, a jam, right? And these are the things that are very experiential while delivering on the performance that is needed. So, and then we always like to challenge ourselves, not only the PD side, right, the Next Lab side, but also the formulation side. So we actually work very well with each other. Yeah.
Excellent. That's great to hear. I'm going to ask everyone on the panel a question so we can get some perspectives really about what's coming next in this category. There are some questions coming in the chat box that we'll get to from the audience after I speak with each of you here about the future. But if you do have questions, please go ahead and type them into the chat area and it will try to answer what we can. And like I said earlier, the folks on the panel will be able to follow up with you directly as well. So don't be shy. Type in a question so that we know what you're quite curious about there. I want to, again, like I said, think about the future. Chris, I'll jump to you and think about really top level trends. What do you see on the horizon for multi-protective beauty for sun care in the future?
Deanna, I'll say two things there, right? One is I think given that consumers are really looking to simplify their routines, I think that's something that's going to continue. When you think of the term skinimalism, right? And kind of the need for these hybrid beauty products, I think hybrid beauty is here to stay. It's been around for some time, but I think the momentum has really accelerated post-pandemic where consumers are really looking for multi-purpose products. They're looking for products that do a multitude of things and simplify their routines. And given the importance of the sun protection category that we're talking about today, I think hybridization of products will continue to kind of take a foothold within the sun protection category, even more than we see it today in the marketplace, because it's really ripe for innovation, and it's a neat category to kind of think about. Traditionally, when you think of serum, you don't necessarily think of SPF, right? But serums are emerging, and we're innovating in that space where serums bring this multi-protective SPF, pollution protection, blue light protection aspect to it. So I think that's kind of one area. The second area I'll talk about is kind of dovetailing what you said about Mana's Trend program, because Pradeep's right, that's kind of our outbound innovation program, right? So we're bringing our customers ideas to stimulate their ideas on what could be next in their innovation pipeline. And while it's a little controversial to say it, I think clean beauty, right, and whatever definition of clean you follow is point of entry today. It's something that consumers demand, and I think it's here to stay. And given kind of many of the things that you heard here today, with the fact that there is a lot of negative press out there with some of the sunscreens, there's more and more of a push to formulate with perceived cleaner sunscreens, and those are titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. And the innovation there that's really happening now and will continue to happen in the future, and will continue to stimulate our customers' ideas on, is how do you really kind of break the paradox or crack the code with formulations, different formats, different consumer experiences, delivering a consumer experience to that customer that normally they wouldn't think they can get from a sunscreen with purely zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. And that's an area that we continue to innovate in as well.
Yeah, no, and your remarks make very good sense, Chris, especially we're thinking about using sunscreen every day, right? Of course, you want it to be clean or safe. And it makes terrific sense too, like you're describing, to think about these multi-beneficial or multifunctional products, because for most consumers, a serum is an everyday product, right? And if we can build that sort of multifunction in, it makes tremendous sense. That was very well said. Najla, I want to shift to you here, looking to the future. If there are regulatory hurdles that you're sort of gearing up for, or if there are maybe some pertinent safety issues that we need to be mindful of here. Oh, I can't hear you, Najla.
I'm sorry. No, I think the future is very bright for sunscreen products, because with all the safety concerns, it actually drives the FDA to now allocate more resources into sunscreen research. Just researching new sunscreen filters, cleaner sunscreen filters, and of course we have we have innovation labs and manufacturers now being a lot more innovative with the textures. I think as soon as the FDA just puts a stop to all the negative chatter or the safety concerns with backing of research, then I think the consumer and just a general public will be more confident in using a sunscreen daily, and in turn decreasing just the rate of skin cancers.
Excellent. Well said. Pradeep, I'll ask you to look into the future as well. Are there formulation technologies in development or something you see emerging very soon that you want to share?
Yeah, definitely. I would like to give one personal example. Growing up in India, I never saw my mom wearing a sunscreen. right?
Yeah.
Beach sunscreen was never heard of. Daily wear, never ever heard of, with SPF. So, and that has changed. Last time when I visited India, I saw her applying a daily wear SPF. I'm like, wow, when did this happen? And these are the exact words she said. She said, I see the difference in my skin when I wear this. It's just less patchy. I don't see the pigmentation. And that is driving, not only in the developed world, but that is driving the change across the world. And then I personally, I'm very passionate about the environment. The biggest change that I see coming is pollution protection combined with skincare and SPF. And a lot of people, they don't realize that some of the effects of pollution on your skin are the same as what a UV would do to your skin, right? The sun would do to your skin, whether it's free radical damage. And I think that more and more people will embrace it, especially with global warming, with pollution increasing. I think more and more people will embrace it, and I think there's going to be a lot of innovation in that area. Yeah.
Perfect. Very good. I see the clock ticking towards 4:30 here on New York City time, but I'm going to nudge it just a little bit since we got started late and go ahead and move into the audience question section. It's really just following up on what you just said, Pradeep. Thinking about pollution and SPF, someone is asking questions particularly about blue light claims, and maybe Najla, this is actually a question for you, but they're wondering if at this point, does the FDA allow for making blue light claims? And I know it's the FDA, is that not really the body that regulates claims, or is that question need to be rephrased?
Well, actually, the FTC regulates claims,
Yeah.
but still with blue light claims, there is no standard claims for blue light.
Okay.
So it's all about the ingredients that you use, your testing, ensuring that you do have the active ingredients in your formula that's backed up by research at a level, at a how can you say it, at a level which testing supports.
Good. This makes sense. I'm going to scroll through some other questions that have come in here. Several questions about regulatory issues and some of the research that you pointed to, Najla, regarding ingredients. I think some of those will be best answered individually because they don't seem specific to a current formulation. This is a very general question that came in early, but I think we should get to it. They ask, how long does it take for a new brand to go to market when they partner with Manna? So maybe we need to think that through a little bit more fully. How does someone begin working with you? How does that progress into developing products? And then when are those showing up in the marketplace? Can we get sort of the shorthand version of that?
I'll take a crack at that, Deanna.
Okay.
I think one of the advantages of Manna is we have different pillars, if you will, depending on the needs of the brand. So, we have a library program where, a customer can come in and take something off the shelf with no customization and be in market very quickly. We have an accelerator program where a customer can come in with some customization, maybe shade or, marketing story, and get to market within, say, 3 to 6 months. Custom development obviously, pushes that more to a 6 to 9 month window if we're looking at a non-OTC product, because again, just talking relevantly about sun protection today, that's an OTC category, over the counter. Right. There's specific testing that's required before you go to market with one of those types of products. So, on average, that's more like a 9 month to 12 month journey from start to getting into market. So there's a flexible scale on how you can interact with us and bring products to the market.
Yeah, excellent. That makes very good sense. So like I said, there are a few other questions that we aren't going to get to, and we have a couple moments left. If you have a burning question and want to go ahead and type it in, please do that now. I do want to thank all of our panelists, Chris Kiru, Najla Lafont, and Pradeep Yadav. Thanks also for everyone in the audience for joining us here today. I'm Dena Utrusky, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this wonderful Founder-Made Beauty and Wellness Summit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deanna. Thank you, everyone from Manna. That was Wow, such a future focused conversation. And who knew the world of sunscreen was so complex and interesting and intriguing? I feel like I learned so much from that conversation. So thank you so much.